All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Eve Banas. I use they and she pronouns, and I'm the Advocacy and Training Lead at the Sacramento LGBT Community Center. So today we're going to be talking a bit about public comment, what it is, why it's important, and some tips on how to, create your public comment. So before I get into content, I'm just going to pop up this survey. This is a survey. It's anonymous. It's for ages 12 to 26. So this will just help with our grant reporting and help us with our funding. So if you have a chance, we'd love for you to fill the survey out. It's very quick. So I'll just leave that up for a second before I continue, just so you can scan it. All right, and if you're watching this after we've already finished, you can go ahead and fill it out as well. Just if you're watching the recording, feel free to fill it out. All right. So first, I want to start with what is public comment. So it's somewhat intuitive. So public comment is an opportunity for the public to comment on a proposed law or a policy. Sometimes people also use it to just like bring up an issue they have, to like voice a complaint, to ask a question. It's just really an opportunity for the public to directly address decision makers. And it's super important because often the people who sit in these positions of power don't really see the full picture of what their community needs. It's like impossible for everyone to be represented by like this small group of people that often sit in these positions of power. So public comment allows the public to have an opportunity to contribute to the discussion, to share their experiences, and to, like voice their opinions. And community members like know what's best for their community. So it's super crucial that folks are going and showing up to these public comment opportunities so that their voice is heard and so that they can create that change within their community. All right, so the goal of public comment. So the goal of public comment is to provide support or opposition to a particular policy, or to raise awareness, or to change a narrative. And something that's really important to consider is the importance of leveraging your power as a constituent during public comment. So like a constituent is if you live in a particular district and you're going to give public comment and your like legislator is there, or if you helped vote them into office or something like that. So in your public comment, by stating that you live in that decision maker's district, you imply that there's like a risk of them losing your vote if they're not hearing you, if they're not like listening to your opinion, if they're not acting accordingly. So it's really important to make yourself known as a constituent because they work for you. You voted them into office. It's also, public comment is also a really useful tool for media advocacy. So often, like these public comments are recorded and made available to the public. And so they're often used in traditional media and also social media to either build or diminish support for a policy or whatever was being discussed. So this can reach even the folks who did not actually attend the meeting. So it spreads the word even farther. Often, like if you're scrolling on social media, you might see clips from public comment, and then that sometimes even encourages folks to go do public comment where they live, even if it's, in a different city or if it's a slightly different topic. So that's a really important tool. Another thing is that, news outlets, reporters, they often show up to these public comment hearings, especially if they're like really big or getting a lot of media attention in general. And so, that's just another way to further share information about the cause. And if there's a really big turnout, then that shows like a lot of solidarity and helps create a lot of change. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about the Brown Act. And the Brown Act is a California law that guarantees the public right to attend and participate in local legislative body meetings. So this includes a few different rights that are guaranteed to the public. So it guarantees that time be made for public comment, that these meetings be held in non-discriminatory facilities. And what this means is that they can't be held in places that like prohibit attendance for people based on their protected like characteristics, like their race, their gender, things like that. It also means that the building needs to be accessible to folks who are disabled. So those things have to be met. All votes have to be cast in public. So if this legislative body is making a decision, it has to be done in public. It can't be done behind closed doors secretly. Closed session actions need to be reported in open session. So when they are able to do something in a closed session, it still has to be reported to the public. And folks have the right to attend meetings without registering or identifying themselves, and access to the materials provided to the legislative body. So whatever materials the legislative body is seeing, the public has the right to access those materials as well. And this quote from the Sacramento Bee kind of sums up the importance of the Brown Act and kind of what the risks are of like when we didn't have this in place. So a law to prohibit secret meetings of official bodies, save under the most exceptional circumstances, should not be necessary. Public officers, above all other persons, should be imbued with the truth that their business is the public's business, and they should be the last to tolerate any attempt to keep the people from being fully informed as to what is going on in official agencies. Unfortunately, however, this is not always the case. Instances are many in which officials have contrived deliberately and shamefully to operate in a vacuum of secrecy. So basically, this is just saying that the decisions that are being made in these spaces affect the public directly. And so it should be a no-brainer that the public gets a say and gets to be included in these meetings. But in the past, that has not always been the case. A lot of things were done behind closed doors that the public does not agree with. And so this is something that kind of protects us and keeps our voices heard. Okay. So next, I'm going to just kind of talk a bit about the motivation behind having a workshop like this right now. So as you may have heard, school boards across California are really pushing forced outing policies right now. And these are putting the lives of LGBTQ+ youth at stake. If you haven't heard about these policies, schools across California, school boards are pushing for like policies that would make it so that if a student, seeks some sort of gender affirmation at school, like, like their name being different or pronouns, or like using a certain bathroom or whatever it may be, that if a child seeks that the parents be informed regardless, just across the board. So this is obviously like really dangerous because a lot of people aren't out to their parents and they have chosen not to be out because they know it's not safe for them. So this would basically make school somewhere that's not safe for them to be themselves. And that's very scary and it's super dangerous. In terms of like local actions that have happened, Rockland's school board voted yes on this forced outing policy. And there's a lot of other local boards that are kind of gearing up to do the same. They've started to hear the policy. They haven't voted on it yet. Last week, I believe Elk Grove heard a similar policy. They haven't voted on it, but they talked about it. So this is something that we have been keeping our eyes on, and I would encourage y'all to do the same because there's going to be more and more calls for public comment as it pertains to LGBTQ+ rights in school. Yeah. And I just want to kind of, this is a picture of me at Buckeye Union School District, which is in El Dorado County, and a picture of like the crowd that was there. And I just wanted to kind of show this because the folks that are pushing these forced outing policies, they are incredibly organized. They are showing up consistently. They often have like matching t-shirts. They're super, super organized. They come in really big groups and they come very consistently. And so it's really important for us to be doing the same. Okay. So now I'm going to be getting into some tips for how to structure your comment. So before you begin writing, there's a few things that I'd recommend considering. One is to learn about the policy or the conversation that is going to be had. So really like dig into what the policy is. You don't have to be an expert on it, but that'll help you kind of form what you're going to say. Also, kind of the next two go together. Determine your goal in providing public comment and ask yourself who your audience is. So you want to make sure that your public comment is catered to that. For instance, when I was giving public comment at Buckeye Union, they weren't voting on the policy, they were just going to be discussing it. So I knew that my goal in being there was to show that there are folks who are in opposition of this policy and to ask that they stop pursuing it, but that if they continue to, we're going to keep showing up and we're going to keep making noise, and it's unacceptable that they're considering it. So that was kind of my goal. So it's important to think about that. Okay, so for writing the beginning, your opening of your public comment. So when you begin your comment, first you want to share a little bit about who you are. So you want to state your name, if you're a resident of their district, of somebody on the board's district, if you live in the city for the school board, if you live in that area, make sure you explicitly say that. And you can also list any like professional affiliation. You know, sometimes at public comments, I've seen at these public comments about LGBT rights in school, like sometimes somebody who's like a school nurse or like a school counselor will say that affiliation, and it kind of provides some more credibility to what they're saying based on, you know, their professional experience. So that's something you can add to your public comment opening as well. You also want to start to explain your relationship to the issue. So you could say like, I'm an LGBTQ plus youth or person, or I'm a parent of an LGBTQ plus child, whatever it may be. So just kind of give some context to what brings you in today to talk about the issue. So in summary, you're beginning, make sure you say your name, whether you're a constituent, professional affiliation, and why you're there today. Okay, next for the middle, you want to start to tell a story that showcases your connection to the issue. So this could be a time you were impacted by the issue. It could be a time you changed your mind about it. It could be something like, if this policy was in place when I was a student, ... There's lots of different ways, but often when you go to public comments, you'll hear people list the same statistics over and over and over again. And statistics can be super impactful and like really helpful to people who like to hear like the facts. However, only you can tell your story. There's going to be other people that are going to list out the statistics, and they can't, like, you're the only one that can tell your personal story, and nobody can take that story away from you. Nobody can like refute that statement that you're making, or just kind of discredit like a lot of times people will say statistics and then they'll just get discredited saying that they don't believe that source. But you can tell your story, and that is the truth. That's your experience, and that's super impactful for decision makers to hear. So I would really recommend focusing on, you know, telling your story during this time. And the end of your comment. So at the end of your comment, you want to be sure to connect your story to a specific ask. So this could sound like, and for those reasons, I urge you to vote no, or I urge you to vote yes on this, anything like that. But you want to have a specific ask for the decision makers, and the goal is for us to hold them to that, right? So be very specific with what you're asking. And that will be super helpful. And just as like a funny way to kind of think about this is like this clip from Princess Bride. You, as I've said, you want to introduce yourself, tell a story, and make a call to action. So from Princess Bride, you know, we have, hello, my name is Inigo Montoya, you killed my father, prepare to die. So you have the beginning, like, hi, my name is this. So you introduce yourself, and then you're telling a story, like, you killed my father, and the call to action is, you know, you need to prepare to die, right? So, you know, this is kind of a silly example from a movie, but it's kind of like a really shortened version of what to expect. So first, if you can't attend in person, you can still like call in or write in support of a public comment, right?